I've played games my entire life. I've maybe replayed a handful of them. So why don't I go back? Before I get into it, if you like a perspective of a longtime gamer, like and subscribe. And I'd really love to have you along. All right, let's get into this. So I've always kind of been a forward-moving guy. I don't really replay games. I don't really rewatch a lot of stuff. I just don't reread anything either. But lately this year, I've changed that. Typically when I finish a game, I finish it, I rate it, and then I move on. I think there's a little bit of FOMO to that. There's just so many games out there. Also, some that's just kind of following the hype that's going on, wanting to be on the same train as some of my friends or peers or anything like that. So here's the thing, I kind of do replay games sometimes. They're usually in the form of a remaster, remake, reimagine, and it's kind of like I have to have permission to go back and play it. I'm not sure why that is, but I just don't go back and just pick up the older games and replay them on their own anymore. I did do it as a kid a lot. Also, nowadays I just don't really sit down and kind of take it all in. So back then I never really gave myself time to really just sit with a game. I would beat it, move on, go to the next one. So it's kind of like when Marvel movies came out. Everyone went out to the movies and went and saw the next thing. Watching the Marvel movies back to back. They don't quite hit the same whenever you watch them back to back as they did whenever you watched them in the theaters. Part of that is they gave you some time to breathe in between, to kind of sit with it, to kind of marinate in what that feels like whenever you get out of it. To me, that objectively gives you the time to decide whether you really like it, don't like it, or somewhere in between. So honestly, I kind of feel like games should be the same way. Maybe not all the time and not for all people. Sometimes people just like to replay the game all over again because they have a way of re-experiencing that game, whether it be a new difficulty, some additions to the game, whatever it might be. And for me, I kind of mow through a 40-hour game and then I kind of move on to the next one. So I don't really get to appreciate the game anymore, I think. That's not to say I wasn't really paying attention or whatever it is whenever I was playing the game. I do appreciate the game for what I was playing. It doesn't feel like it hits the same if I just let it sit there and marinate a little bit sometimes. So here's the thing. People ask me sometimes, what's my recommendation for a good JRPG, video game, whatever it is. And then I started realizing I have recommendations, but I don't really have concrete reasons why sometimes. Depending on the game or series, there is times that I still remember games pretty well. A lot of it comes from nostalgia. I don't have specifics sometimes that I want to give somebody for the game that I want to recommend. I can tell them I like it, and here's several reasons why. It's not really the same as giving tailored experiences or tailored expectations of what the person would like. So Final Fantasy IX is kind of a perfect example for me. I do remember really liking it a lot. I played it when I was a little bit younger. I think I was probably in high school whenever I was playing it. And whenever I recommend it, I can recommend things, like the characters of the game, the story, or anything like that. But the thing is, I don't really remember the ins and outs or the intricacies of that game. And for me, that's kind of a problem. I don't want to give empty recommendations to somebody just because I liked it. I'm honest with somebody. I do tell them I still like it, and I probably still will like it whenever I replay it. I still try to give good recommendations whether or not I do like something or not, but I try to give them some kind of the expectation that I don't really remember bits and pieces about the game, but here's what I do remember. It's kind of hard to recommend that because some of those games came out in the past, 20, 30 years, and I've never replayed some of them, if not any of them, depending on what it is. My recommendations sometimes are just pure nostalgia sometimes without any substance. So something changed in me. I realized this a lot whenever I started talking with my peers and members of Discords and stuff like that. And they talk really intimately about the game in detail about what they like, specific moments, people, things, that kind of thing. And I sit there and kind of think, did we play the same game? Where was I? I don't remember any of this. So that's when it hit me. I love story-based games. It's probably the #1 genre I play. So how do I miss the biggest part of those games that I love the most? I didn't really start off with my pick as a story-based game. I chose something a little simpler, and that was Zelda on the NES. You can see a previous video for that. I did replay it, and what surprised me the most was the genuine rediscovery of the game. I mentioned that in the previous video, and I didn't really realize that I was going to encounter that. I thought I was going to remember things, or I would remember specifics, but it was like playing a brand new game all over again. Don't get me wrong, I remembered some of the game. Obviously, it's been 40 years since that game came out, and I still just ran into moments where I just was genuinely surprised and I loved, and I fell in love with the game again. It's kind of like going back and rewatching those movies or TV shows you watched 20 years ago, and you go, did they hold up? Did they not hold up? And you realize some of them go, that didn't quite hold up. And some of them you realize, dang, that was actually better than I thought it was. Or about what you expected. And that made me realize nostalgia is kind of for remembering something very fondly that you loved. And replaying is kind of testing those memories that you remember so fondly. So some games I feel like are probably gonna hold up and some games just won't. I mean, that's kind of expected at this point. Some of these games have been around for 30, 40 years. And I'm certain some of these games that I played, as a kid or a little bit older are gonna probably feel a little old now. That's probably due to technology, old mechanics, old quality of life stuff. And I'm kind of okay with that. The whole point of this is not to just see if the games are any good anymore. We all know they may not hold up. The other part of this is what happens whenever I meet them again as the person I've become in life. It may not be every video, but it's definitely going to be something that's kind of reoccurring for myself. I want to genuinely rediscover these games again. So another thing I want to do is I have backlogged that I use for cataloging my games and rating them and whatnot. And I probably want to go back and redo some of those if I need to redo them, whether they're better or worse or they stay the same. I'll probably look through that backlog too to help me get some ideas of what I want to go back and see if everything was just nostalgia or from memory. And I want to get an honest rating of what I feel like they are nowadays so I can give them a proper recommendation in the future. And this is not going to be just one genre. I'm going to go through Zelda, I'm going to go through Final Fantasy, I'm going to go through maybe some Final Fight. I don't know, it could be all over the place. I just want to revisit these games that I played because I haven't really just played a certain genre. I've played a ton of different genres as I've grown up. Also, there's going to be some games that I've always wanted to play, I should have probably played, but I never did. So I'm going to go ahead and do those too. So what's one game maybe you're scared to go back on to see if it holds up anymore? I'd love to hear it in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.